All right, guys, huge episode today. We got Cubs Baseball Channel back on the show. Mick from Cubs Baseball Channel. We're going to talk about everything to do with prospects, who we should trade, what do we need to fill, who we shouldn't trade. If we're going to trade someone, what do we need to get back in return? That's all of today's topic. Really a great episode. Check it out. A couple just additions here. Sponsors of the podcast. We got Sports World Chicago and Wrigleyville Sports. Promo code Beers by the Ivy. Get yourself 10% off. They are the predominant Cubs stores in Wrigleyville. They are directly across the street from Wrigley. So check that out. Also, a big announcement, my hats. You can get them at shop.beersbytheivy.com, but they are officially in Wrigleyville Sports now. So I got my Kelly Green hat, my Wrigley hat, and then also my Richards 112 snapback hat. That's freaking really comfortable. So check those out. So shop.beersbytheivy.com or, of course, go to Wrigleyville Sports and tell them I'm saying 10% off Beers by the Ivy code. Thanks. Hey, Mick, thanks for joining the podcast again. And for people who don't know, Mick, Cubs Baseball Channel, in my opinion, the greatest and the best Cubs content on the internet. Check them out on YouTube. I think you're in a few different spots too, but mainly YouTube on daily uploads. Mick, what's going on?
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks. I love it when you say that.
Well, it's true. I mean, you're my
Cubs.
daily guy. You're my daily guy.
Yeah.
All right. So, I want to talk about trades. I want to talk about specifically Owen Caissie. For me personally, if we're going to trade Owen Caissie, it better be to win a World Series and legit achieve World Series, championship. Where you're at, and if we were going to trade him, is there anybody in your mind that you think would be of value for Owen Caissie?
Look, I think if you trade Owen Caissie and you don't sign Kyle Tucker, I've said this, they need to fire the whole front office and find somebody else. And they're not going to have to fire him because they don't have an extension after this year. I want Jed to be successful, though. I like him. This isn't like, hey, I want the guy out. I want to see him do well. But one of the biggest problems I have with the front office is that a lot of times it feels like they're not planning ahead, right? Like we don't have a third baseman. Then we have two, but when we trade two, and then we get a guy back in a position of abundance for us. Now, I know Tucker's an awesome player, but if you don't sign him back and you trade Owen Caissie, you're making a huge mistake. And I think Owen Caissie is someone that in his own way could make an impact for the Cubs like Pete Crow Armstrong. And you're seeing what he's doing right now in AAA. He's done that at every level. He's always been the youngest guy. Defense is good, arm's good. But the power bat is what's really going to be loved in the big leagues, and he's only going to get better when he barrels the ball up. He's going to strike out a lot, but when he barrels the ball up, he's a difference maker, man. And I'm worried that this front office not having an extension, at least not publicly, after this year, there's a sense of urgency that I like, but at the same time, they could make decisions that aren't best for the organization long term. And I worry about that because giving up Owen Caissie is not a good idea unless you win a World Series.
I agree. It's crazy. It's like you could have had Cam Smith, PCA, and Owen Caissie in your outfield. And I talked about it before this year. I went to Wrigley and did a whole podcast next to Wrigley after the last season. I was like, we have a youth core that if we did nothing and just started young, we could probably build the dynasty that we did in 2016. But nonetheless, another thing too I hear, and you talk about this, is like our bench isn't good enough. Then why not just bring up Owen Caissie right now?
Yeah.
Like,
well, they should have brought him up last year instead of Kevin Alcantara. Yeah.
If our bench isn't good enough, then bring him up, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's he's batting 280. Another thing I was going to ask you, somebody asked me this on TikTok. If he's batting 280 in AAA, what does that mean? I know he's got a lot of home runs, but what does that mean for when he goes to the majors? Do we see that dip down to 200, or do we think he maintains that 280?
I think that eventually he maintains 280. Okay, but it's going to take time. I mean, he's going to run into some balls in the big leagues. He's going to have a learning curve like Cam Smith's having right now, and Houston. And for Cam, it's just it's the home runs haven't come yet, but he's going to hit a lot of home runs. The Athletic thinks he might hit 60, which is pretty crazy. I didn't say that, but they did. Owen Caissie's got 40 home run potential. And what happens is that you see when guys get to the big leagues, they struggle and then they figure it out. I've really liked Craig Counsell as manager because he does such an excellent job of working with those guys on understanding, kind of how to deal with the big leagues and the failure that comes with it. But what we've seen with Pete Crow Armstrong, Craig Counsell deserves credit for Pete's success. Pete's awesome. He was going to be awesome. We said that from the beginning, but he struggled, and it took a while, right? And now he's there. I think Owen Caissie. I don't think the struggle is going to be quite as long for Owen Caissie, because Owen Caissie's he's an old soul. He's in his 20s. He shows up every day like he's a seasoned vet. The team that the Cubs trade him to is getting a really, really, really ready to go player. I just hope that it's the Cubs, and I'm with you. When you're in a game and you need some, a late spark, it ain't coming from Brujan, and it ain't coming from Birdie, right? Turner, hey, I like him, but his days in the big leagues are kind of numbered. I mean, this is probably going to be it for him. Owen Caissie is someone that I wouldn't mind. They don't want to take the at bats away from him, but I wouldn't mind seeing him on the bench either.
I know, but this is crazy. Like, don't you think the experience of being at Wrigley, experience being at other ballparks in a professional setting would be
Yep.
good for him as well?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, a lot of these famous quarterbacks they actually sit for multiple games. Like
Yeah.
Eli sat a whole season, Aaron Rodgers sat a couple years. Like very, very common. All right, another thing too I want to talk about is Matt Shaw. I like Shaw, and I know it's like he's not batting well, but he does come up big in certain moments, and I
Hmm.
like that. And I also love that he attacks the ball at third base, and I feel like we haven't had a guy with some aggressive mentality at third in years. So I'm eating it up at him at third base, but I understand he's not great at the plate yet. Do we have to make a move? I would rather us get pitching. I think pitching's the way, but what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think the needs for the Cubs are starting pitching one, which is going to be absolutely tough to get because everybody wants it, right? The second thing is going to be maybe somebody late inning bullpen. I think on my show today I talked about Mitch Keller and Aroldis Chapman, but there's about a dozen starting pitchers that could possibly be available. And then some help on the bench, and then maybe a third baseman, right? Eugenio Suarez is a guy that you keep hearing his name pop up, and you make the lineup a little deeper. But at the end of the day, I agree with you. Shaw's done the one thing that is the most important thing that a young player can do, and that's he's really good defensively. And he makes your infield a lot better when he's over at third base. He's a shortstop playing third. He's been, you know, spectacular at times, right? But he's
Yeah,
been super consistent. This is part of the game, right? I mean, like you're always going to have kind of young guys breaking in and veterans, that holding on. I mean, look, think about it. Shaw on one end of the spectrum and Turner on the other end of the spectrum, right? And then guys that are in their prime, like Turner. I mean, like Tucker. So I mean, it's a good mix. He's young. I mean, and he's trying to figure it out like PCA. I think it's going to come together for him faster than Pete Crow Armstrong, just because I think that the adjustments that he needed to make are just different. But how long and how patient are they when maybe they could get the right deal and bring someone in, but doesn't even mean it. I mean, think about this. They traded for Jamer Candelario a couple years ago, and he was good for a couple weeks and got hurt, and then, it didn't even matter. And you just wasted all that trade capital on somebody that couldn't hang. Now, the good part would be since Shaw can play second and shortstop, you could move him to maybe the Brujan role and get a better bat out of it, right?
hmm
But I don't think that third base is why the Cubs don't win sometimes. I don't. And
exactly.
so I'm with you. I mean, I don't know that that's a priority. But if you wanted a third baseman, maybe you should have kept Isak Paredes, or maybe you should have kept Cam Smith, which I will say this on the Cam Smith deal. We didn't have him long enough to know he was going to be a superstar player, other than he was a first round pick.
Right.
Um, that trade, if the Cubs don't sign Turner, could be one of those deals we look back at and everybody hates Jed Hoyer in 10 years because they're like, why the hell did he make this deal? Right. And I don't want to see him do the same thing with Owen Caissie.
Exactly. Like when you look back and say you could have had Cam Smith and Wright, or I guess Owen plays right, doesn't he? Well, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
He could
Owen
play
and
left
Wright.
though.
Okay, so yeah, so we'll just go Cam Smith and Wright, PCA center, Owen Caissie left. You're like, oh my, we had the dynasty Shaw, playing third. Like that's a good core of youthness.
But they want to win now. I
But
mean,
that's
look,
fine. I'm ready for it. I love sitting
yeah,
at
it's
Wrigley.
fun watching the team
I
win for
love watching Tucker. Like,
yeah,
I'm all about it. We got two all-stars
yeah.
starters. I mean, you can't beat that. All right.
No,
And I got to talk about this guy too. And I don't know much about him. I'm sure you do. Wiggins, pitcher. I think in Double A right now.
yeah.
He's also on my don't trade. I got Casey and Wiggins, but
No, they're trading Wiggins. I mean,
you think
he's
so?
playing right now. They got him. We haven't seen him in a game in weeks, and it's because they're keeping him wrapped in bubble wrap. He'll be in the futures game, probably throwing gas.
Do you think we
Wiggins,
should though? Should we trade him?
yeah, I mean, I'm okay trading Wiggins. I think Wiggins is a really good pitcher. When you trade for pitching, you have to get pitching in return. That's kind of the rule that GMs have in baseball. Wiggins came out of nowhere. He's got a great fastball, but he's had 3 Tommy John surgeries. He's had a track record of injuries. When he's healthy, he's great. And I mean, I hope he stays healthy and has a brilliant career. But if it's me and I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, I got a guy who here's I talked to one baseball scout and he's like, look, I could see Wiggins being a starter in the big leagues like soon, like maybe next year. I've said this, and I said it back to him. I said, I think Wiggins could be back end bullpen right now. So the Cubs could move him into one of those back end bullpen roles, kind of like the Cardinals always seem to do on their good years, right? Where they just find some dude out of nowhere that throws gas, and then all of a sudden, he's their setup guy that you can't hit or closer. Wiggins is that type of guy for me. Or you can trade him. And you get back, if you trade him, don't bring me one of these bullpen guys. I don't want Ryan Presley, even though I know Ryan's been better lately. But where you're looking at his analytics and everything's going this way. I'm talking about let's get somebody that we can put in the rotation, and I would love to see someone at the top of the rotation, which would lead to maybe the Diamondbacks because I think they have the 2 best pitchers. If they would trade Merrill Kelly or Zach Gallen, right? I would take either one of those guys if I was the Cubs. I mean, Mitch Keller's all right. Somebody on my channel was like, he kind of reminds me of another Jamison Tyone. I mean, yeah, he kind of does. I mean, he was an all-star, but it's nothing spectacular. What you want is to match up with the Dodgers, the Giants, the Brewers in a short series and have a rotation that you look at and go, okay, we can win this. And that's what it comes down to in these playoff games. And all those years I watched the Cubs lose in the playoffs, you knew going in, like, you're like, well, you know what, we got to get this and this, we really need Ted Lilly to give us the best here, and I mean, look, Teddy was great, but I mean, then you're going up against teams that have better, better pitching, and when the Cubs won the World Series, you look at that rotation, it's like, okay, Arrieta, okay, you're not beating him, right? Lester, nah, you're not beating him. And then when you get by those 2 guys, there's Lackey. Woody's pretty good. Yeah, and then we got this young kid, Hendricks, like you got to have that kind of depth, right? So it's like Shota and then Matthew Boyd, which I'm still waiting for him to get hurt, but God, I hope he doesn't, man. He's been so much fun to watch, and he's so great. Like you can tell he's such a great dude.
Mm-hmm.
But the Cubs got to go out and get. I think that if you're going to give up Wiggins, you're gonna have to give an ace up, and they have enough depth where they don't have to trade Owen Caissie to make a deal.
Right.
They got Johnny Long, someone that's
I was gonna ask you about it. His numbers are pretty damn good. I don't even know who Jonathan Long is.
Yeah, he came from Long Beach State. Like he was just like a guy that they drafted, and he's just hit. Like he's been a hitting machine, right? Yeah. He's got a great bat. So
I mean, he's right
developed, right? And he's
most
in AAA
RBIs.
doing it.
Yeah, 55 RBIs. He's leading the team. That's over all the prospects.
Ballesteros, I would trade Ballesteros.
I would trade him too, and
position, but he can hit.
I was at the game that he debuted at Wrigley, and he moves faster than I thought he would, but he's just out of shape. And I don't know like how you're a professional athlete. It's just like there's only one Prince Fielder,
Right.
There's like 100 that aren't Prince Fielder. So I don't know. Maybe that's a hot take for me, but that was something where I'm just like, I don't know. I would trade him. But yeah, the Jonathan Long, when I was looking at those stats, I was like, who the heck is this guy? But Michael Bush has been the truth at first.
Yeah. Better than Freddie Freeman. I think the Dodgers knew it too, but what are you going to do? Like, it's the same thing with Owen Caissie. Like, I'm okay with trading Owen Caissie if you lock down Kyle, right?
Yeah.
You get
Yeah.
you get him,
100%.
give me
Yeah.
him long term, and I know I'm giving up somebody really good, but I better get back something back like in return. Where I say, and I've said this over and over again, that you have to get rid of this front office is if they leave you with Saya in right field. Love him at DH. He can't play the field. Like,
Yeah.
you know that. So if you're going to go ahead and put him out there, then it's on your ass. And and I felt like when Theo was in charge, that he always seemed to be a little bit ahead of the next thing, right? Like, look, here's what we got here. And then towards the end of his tenure, it felt like it was more, I'm just grasping to try to win another World Series, right? Great GMs are planning ahead. Like, we're not going to trade 2 third basemen and not have one, right? And we knew going into the season that Matt Shaw could potentially have a year that was going to take some time to figure it out, right? But they went in without a third baseman. They didn't sign Alex Bregman, and so the right field thing to me is it's either Owen Caissie or Tucker. I mean, or maybe both. But
No, I agree. I think both.
If it's 0 for them, I'm just sick of seeing this all the time. I'm so tired of not having a game plan down the road where you're wasting your assets, right? Like when Alexander Canario was a prospect and you didn't want him, or you weren't going to want him, trade him. Luis Vasquez can play shortstop. He had more value. You put him on the 40-man, trade him away. Get something back for these guys. Go younger. I mean, nobody wanted them. Look, there's a lot of teams out there that you will make a deal with you on guys when you got shortstops and outfielders that can hit with power and stuff like that. Their internal scouting, which we're turning into, robots and video, isn't working. But that's the cheap route, right? You got to have those old school baseball guys that show up, the Gary Hugheses of the world, and look around and go, you know what, man, we don't have a spot for this guy. There's the potential. Let's make a trade. Or if you have an Owen Caissie, like, let's not trade this guy. And I'll tell you the organization that does a great job of this, it's the LA Dodgers. You look at the guys that they trade and you look at the guys that they keep. Now, they traded us Bush, but they were in a spot where they didn't have they had him as a utility guy. It wasn't working. You know what? You got back 2 really good young prospects, including one excellent left-handed pitcher from us. And that's what you have to do, right? Well, the value's there. You don't like release them and then let some other team grab them. I mean, I feel like sometimes that's my biggest issue with this front office is like, you have all of this talent. You got to use all of this talent, and take advantage and get something for it. The whole getting to the releasing guys and all that stuff, man, that you developed doesn't cut
100%.
it. Man. Not having a third baseman at the beginning of this year when you traded 2 of them, come on.
I know, 100%. I heard the 670 guys like talking like, oh, well, if they trade Casey, then they're obviously going to sign Tucker. And I'm just like, well, are they obviously going to sign Tucker? And the whole Tucker thing is going to be does the owners not want to pay him, or is the front office not good enough on selling the
Well,
vision?
I mean, but the problem is it's not that it's not that the front office, like the ownership, doesn't want to pay him. I mean, they'd love to extend him right now, but a lot of the problem with this stuff is what somebody's willing to take, and then some people, other teams may come in and overpay by so much that you're like, you know what? I mean,
Yeah.
we don't have $700 million for one guy, and I understand that too. Like it's so tough to figure out who's worth the money and who's not, and what's life going to be like for like Juan Soto. He got paid big money, Manny Machado and Machado. I just saw where he hit his 300th home run, and and he's been just trucking along over there for the Padres. Like, it really hasn't slowed him down. I think Tucker will continue to do his thing, but I mean, you're signing him for a long time. What if he gets hurt, right?
100%.
And so I mean, it's not like, to me, I'm a realist when it comes to making an investment that's like a $500 million investment on one person. But you want to get that you got to be lucky too. I mean, like, is this guy going to stay healthy? Is he going to stay motivated? Is he going to, these are guaranteed contracts. Nobody watching on here has a guaranteed contract. You can put this show out. Baseball has this really stupid, which is great for the players, but it's bad for us as fans. Where it's like you're guaranteed your entire contract, whether you show up and play one game or not. What in the hell type of field has this?
Baseball.
Right. And look at what they've done with it. A lot of
100%.
guys work their ass off and they play hard and they earn the money. And a lot of them don't. You get guys that are like, hey man, you know what? I'm packing it up. Was the guy with the Angels, the third baseman that won the World Series with the Nats, and then he's just like, baseball is not really my priority. It's like, dude, you got 100%. Like $250 million to play every day. It is your priority,
I know. It's like Conor McGregor though. It's like he was a dynamite UFC fighter, and then he makes $250 million. Now he doesn't want to get punched in the face.
Right. And who does, right?
You're like, why would you? He's on a boat. Like, he's yachting.
Well, it's guaranteed. And that's something that if the game would be a lot better if they didn't have guaranteed contracts. If it was like the NFL, part of your contract's guaranteed, and then part of it, that you have to go out and perform. And the reason I'm saying that is that you can't give a guy 11 years and then he plays 2 or 3. I remember some of the all-time worst. Baltimore signed Albert Bell and he got hurt, and then they were stuck with that contract forever, and didn't have anybody. How about Jason Hayward? That was like the Cubs version of that.
Yeah, it was.
He got the huge contract and he sucked. He was terrible.
Terrible. I mean, brutal.
Yeah, and then we're watching Dansby Swanson, and it's like, man, please. He's actually been
he's been
a
good.
little better this year. Not so much that I don't have to talk about him, but he's not like $177 million. Like, it's a lot of money to be like the 8th batter.
I know. God, he had a terrible beginning of the season. I kept thinking of you. I'm sitting in the bleachers thinking of you. Like, oh God, he's gonna. And then But
is there ever a time that Dansby comes up and you're like, you're scared, like in the 9th, like he's always going to get out. Like, he's just not clutch.
Sometimes I'm thinking maybe he is the leader, but I think
he is the leader. I mean, but he's just not like, I don't know. My favorite Cubs, Andre Dawson, the Hawks coming up at the end of the game. That's why I like he's going to make something happen. It might be an out, but it'll be exciting, right?
I mean, that's why I love the Tucker to PCA lineup. Because both those guys have big time play genes, and they're not scared of the moment.
Hey, Tucker's great in the moment.
I mean, you talk about Tucker home run. You talk about Tucker getting a single. Like, he does what he does, and then PCA is electric. Too. Oh yeah,
battles his ass off.
He's one of the best stances I've ever seen. Like, his stance just looks lethal.
Right.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I love him. I do love him. I'd hate to see him.
Looks like a Cub too.
Feels like a Dodger. Cub. Like the Dodgers are spent. Dodgers TV network, like. There's all these reasons why Marquee's not making any money, but it's just not compelling content. You watch the Dodgers, like, man, they got like Earl Hershiser on their broadcast.
I mean,
man. Like,
ESPN outshined Marquee this week.
Yeah,
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, I thought was better covered.
I'll tell you this,
interviewed Craig Counsell.
Shout out to my man Wayne Randazzo. Him and the D Train, watching them on Apple last Friday. I was like, this is a great broadcast.
Yeah.
Like. And this isn't a shot at any individual at Marquee. I like those guys, but I'm just saying, like, that Wayne, it's more of a management thing to me, and kind of a directional thing. But I mean, like, I'm watching the game and I'm like, well, I've known Wayne forever, but man, that was a great call. It was really fun, like, really fun broadcast. Now, it also didn't hurt that we hit 8 home runs, but
100%. But
he's a Chicago guy, and you get it. Like, he's a. I mean, I know he does Angels games, but he loves the Cubs. He grew up a Cubs fan, so. I
mean, Mick, no BS. Like, you being on Marquee would be sweet because, like, I mean, I listen to you as much as I can whenever you're on the channel, with the Smokies, right?
Yeah,
thank you. You don't need help at all. Like, you can pretty much call a game alone.
Yeah, that's what you learn that, man. I mean, that's like the craft of it. Like, you do so many games by yourself, but the problem is that you've got management that doesn't really understand, like, the value of entertainment, right? They don't. They just show up and they're looking at they're going to put a team together based on things other than what the fans want, right? Like, we want to feel good about this. You got people that are on there that I've been around baseball for 40 years. There's people there that don't know what they're talking about. Like they're like, this guy's in finance, and now he's telling you about this. And look, I want to see Ryan Sandberg
Yeah,
telling
no
me about
kidding.
hitting a curveball. I want to see, go and get somebody that played. It doesn't even have to be that like a superstar player,
Like
but
get
give me
Zobrist.
a what's that?
Get Ben Zobrist. Doesn't he still
Yeah,
live in
right.
Chicago?
I
Like
would
he
love
comes on
that, man. Like
sometimes, but just get him full time.
it's like it's like we took this MLB network model and we just threw it out there. And the Cubs fans they're local fans. We've always been that way. I know
Baseball
WGN
is.
was a national channel, international channel, right? But it was run locally. It was run like, hey, either Cubs people or Chicago people. Like and there's a look and a vibe that they haven't been able to master. If they do master that, and look, having Harry Carey and Steve Stone, I love JD.
Mhm.
Um, he's great on the air and I love his personality, but it's about trying to find that same magic because the Cubs are built on TV.
Yeah.
They were, and I don't know, like I think if you ever got back to that you would be able to make a lot of money, and I think that there's some tough decisions that they have to admit. They want to make money doing it because, and what it comes down to is this. I'm not talking about making money and ownership getting more money. I'm talking about making more money so you can go spend more money on players and winning.
Exactly.
Right?
That's the Dodgers' advantage right now, right? Like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Another thing that makes me, I got a TikTok that went pretty big on this one. Why we are in the studio for the pre and post game
Dude,
drives me crazy.
I've told them
Put it
that.
on the damn field.
I know.
I don't care
But they don't-
unless
but
it's freezing. Like I want to see Wrigley. When I want to turn on the
I
TV,
know.
I want to see and feel Wrigley Field. And
I
also,
know.
like, sorry, one more thing. Like,
Yeah, no, go ahead.
the best TV show in sports was Shaq and the Guys.
Yeah.
Why? Because they focused on it. They knew what they were talking about,
Yeah.
but they had personalities. I don't mean to dog the marquee guys like that do the post game, but they're not entertaining. Like I'm not watching it for them, and it needs to be some characters.
Right? That are interesting. But the other thing is don't get on there and tell me how great the team is when they stink, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like I still want to know you love the team.
I know,
It's
exactly.
like
But
there's a balancing
like,
act here.
you
Don't
and
cheer
I-
against me, but I'll tell you right now, Porter Hodge was awful last night. I
Yeah.
thought they brought him up too fast, to be honest with you. And I don't know if they had to or not, but he's not healthy right now.
Gotcha. All right,
Anyway,
man.
that was my rant. They're gonna hate me.
No.
So hopefully nobody.
Well, I can cut it out if you want me to, but I gotta, I gotta jump, go back to my real job. But appreciate the time. Thanks everyone, and we'll talk soon.